welcome everyone to our session today. As some of you will know, we do these every month, and we look forward to welcoming you to future ones as well. Today's is all about transforming member insights into growth, and the methods, techniques and technologies that you can use behind that. So we've got a whole range of different presenters today, so we're all going to do specific parts each, but everyone will introduce themselves as we go along. Some rules and guidance. We record the session, so we'll be distributing the recording of this, the live video, but also the slides and some other collateral we'll be emailing to you over the next few days. So if you've got any assistant minute takers that are recording this, could you please turn them off, because we're going to circulate all of the stuff anyway. Also, we've got chat enabled, so any questions as we go through, anything you don't quite understand, anything you think we're not covering, please put some questions in there and we'll answer them, or endeavour to answer them as we go along. If we can't, we'll follow up with you afterwards in any event. We've got some Q&A at the end. We've already got some questions that people have sent us, but if you've got some more, put them in the chat box and we'll cover them as we can. And that's really my main part. So what we're going to cover, some introductions. We'll explain some of the key issues that that we're facing. Then we'll talk about some case studies of how people have solved these issues. Then we'll come on to some demos about how some of the technology we and our customers use can really start to drive this forwards. And then, as I say, Q&A. So with that, I'd like to hand over to my colleague Alan, and he'll be giving us some introductions and talking about some of the issues that we're all facing.
Thanks so much, Steve. Good morning, everybody. Alan Reed. I'm an independent consultant to the membership space. I'm really delighted to be part of the webinar today, because I think it's a really exciting moment in the membership space. I've been working with membership organizations going back to the 90s, and of course people had databases then, and they had elementary integration to the website, but that was about it. And in those days, and for some years afterwards, people were kind of happy if they could put the data into something and it was still there next day. That was seen as a bit of a result. Now we have all of these new tools available. That means that membership organizations are just vastly more empowered than they ever have been before. So let's talk about that a little bit. So historically, what we've had in the past is that, and to a very large extent, too much the case for a lot of the delegates on this webinar now, I'm sure, that membership organizations are spending their time like hamsters in a hamster wheel, essentially just processing data. They're spending all of their time capturing the stuff, updating the stuff, searching for it and querying is incredibly painful and time consuming, collating, fixing the data. And all of that is sapping time and energy from what the organization should be doing, which is thinking outwards about your members and thinking outwards about what you can do for them next and how you can prove the value to them. But unfortunately, it's always been necessary to do this because the systems are relatively disconnected, or all of your business processes and means of engagement weren't fully supported by the technology that was available. We're now moving to a place where essentially 3/4, and I would say higher, of that processing task of capturing the information, collating it, fixing it, all of that is being done by modern tools. Online self-service, of course, update through apps, people being able to use AI and applications and routines that can fix things automatically, capture things automatically, make sense of disconnected data sets. So even if your data isn't perfectly integrated these days, with modern tools, you can use AI-based analysis of that to treat it like information that you can use to strategize and do better for your own organization. So now that you're freed up potentially as an organization to think about more about what your members want and things about the kind of creative ideas you can bring to the table. The the line we have at the moment, the line that I take with organizations that I'm working with, is really you want to get yourself in a position where you have no excuse to be blocking you from thinking about, okay, what would we ideally be doing with our members? What would we ideally be providing to them? How would we be making sure that renewing with us is a no-brainer? And now the tools are there at a much more affordable basis than they ever have been before to put you in that position. So the question membership organizations should be asking really in 2025 is, if I have all of this enablement, if I have all of this empowerment for my colleagues and myself, what would I do with it? And organizations have not really been able to think about that until now. So thank you very much. And I'll hand over to Jeremy to take us through in a bit more detail.
Thank you very much, Alan. Can I just confirm that my screen's coming through?
Yeah.
Yes, great.
Fantastic. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jeremy Jaley, Business Development Lead at Smart Impact. Thanks, Alan, for that introduction and scene setting, and thanks everyone for joining us today. My job is to explore how modern data practices are opening up new possibilities for membership organisations to deepen engagement with their members. And this will tee up Steve to describe some of the ways that Smart Impact has supported our clients to do this with some specific engagement challenges that they had. And then we'll hand over to Chris and Adam for a demo of several of the tools that we've used to enable this. In particular, I'm going to focus on how we can move beyond surface level insights and start planning to use data in a way that drives meaningful, personalized engagement with our stakeholders. So traditionally, membership organizations have worked in what I'd call a broad brushstroke paradigm, which means they've been asking quite big general questions like, what do our members want? What does a particular group or subgroup need? And how can we improve big processes like joining or retention? Now, obviously, these are important, but by their very nature, they're focused on big picture issues and therefore tend to produce quite general answers. So naturally, the changes they then inform are also fairly general and generic. It's like painting a portrait with a broom. You might get the outline, but you miss the detail. But today the game has changed, and a better artistic analogy is pointillism, which is a painting technique using hundreds of tiny dots that come together to form a full image. So each interaction a member has with you, joining, attending, spending, clicking, sharing, giving feedback, etc., is just one of those dots. And with the right tools and approach, we can piece those dots together to create a clear, detailed picture of how members are engaging. And modern CRM platforms, combined with AI and automation tools, give us the ability to zoom in and act on insights at a very granular level that were previously out of reach to us. Now, to achieve this, organizations need to be intentional about capturing the right signals across their ecosystem. And that goes for CRM systems, websites, email platforms, social media, and more. And you'll want to focus on two kinds of insights. Macro insights, which is using tools like social listening, web analytics, and AI to identify broad patterns and trends. And micro insights, which is tracking detailed activity, gathering feedback, perhaps scoring engagement of members, and identifying who's getting value and who isn't. And when combined, these perspectives help you see both the forest and the trees because you've got insights at both levels. So once you've collected the data, the next step is to turn that into action. And modern AI platforms like Microsoft Copilot and ChatGPT can help you to analyze patterns, explain what's going on, and recommend ways to respond. And some organizations these days are even developing their own GPTs tuned to their own data to improve the outputs that those are generating. And at the individual level, it's about personalising journeys, responding in real time, setting up workflows, using tools like decision trees to provide different experiences, and tracking what works with each member. And the real sweet spot is where macro trends and micro interactions align, where engagement becomes precise, relevant, and impactful. And Chris and Adam are going to show you exactly what that looks like in a sec. The shift, though, also calls for a mindset change. And I think this is really important. You need to change from simply broadcasting to actively listening. Members today, by and by, are digital natives. They expect personalization, they expect relevance, and they're constantly bombarded by content. So earning their attention, even for a short amount of time, is harder than ever. Using data well can help you rise to that challenge. And if you're listening carefully and acting on what you hear, you can make sure that you stay relevant, increase loyalty, and grow impact. So look, we've seen how data practices can move us from general assumptions to specific strategic actions, combining those macro trends with individual journeys. Now let's bring some of this to life. Steve, I'm going to head in your direction to discuss some case studies of ways we've helped organisations to use data to maximise their member engagement.
Fine. So thanks, Jeremy. So I'm going to spend a few minutes just talking about a couple of example case studies of issues and how customers of ours have solved them. So the first is, forgive my voice, the first is recruiting younger members. So, the background, and we hear this an awful lot, is a number of organisations that we deal with, and those that are coming to us as well, saying, well, that the age of their membership is increasing, and it's increasing every year by about a year, which essentially means they're not getting any younger guys in, but every member that's in is staying in, which is good. Now that's fine, as long as you're able to keep growing and keep getting people in. But if you've got strongly declining numbers, then your membership organisation is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. So the problem is one of engagement and attraction. A lot of the tried and tested methods don't really work with younger members. So it's about not necessarily hanging around with emails, but it's using different channels. Everyone's been talking about video, but really, video and reels are the communication tools, but you need to find the right channels and you need to get the right messaging in those. So the sort of things we've done with customers is firstly helping them run campaigns. So they're starting to survey their members and their younger potential members to find out what sort of things are actually working for them. And that's really important because as my kids keep telling me, there's no point me telling them what's interesting for them because they know, and I'm always wrong because I'm far too out of date now. So it's surveying everyone, finding out what you can, meeting them in different events, going to things that they do, maybe going to universities and canvassing a lot of interests and so on. But the key things that come out of this are, once you've got an idea about the channels, the message, the different content types, key things are also make it authentic. So encourage your younger members or find some younger authors to start putting your messaging out there. There's no point people like me writing messages or creating videos that these guys need to consume. So you need to find the right peer-to-peer group because that works and it resonates very, very well. So the language must be clear. It should be very concise. It should be value driven. It should be what benefits do you offer and why would they join you rather than spend their money on something else. And give those messages through the right channels. There's also empowering those members that you've got, getting them onto committees, maybe start a working group, which is the younger voice of your organization. They can drive things through. They feel that there's value there. If that works, you can then create case studies about it, and then you can publish those case studies to attract other younger members. So they've got to feel value. They've got to feel that there's clear, concise messaging, because as Jeremy says, there's an awful lot of distraction and content that's served every day to people. You've got to cut through that, particularly with younger members. And you've also got to give them feeling that once they're in, their voices are valued and they can start to get involved and dictate the organisation. So that's key. The other one that's obviously key is price. You need to think about freemium offers, much more flexible pricing offers, try before you buy, short-term membership that you can then roll into. So that's an area that we don't see a lot of organizations really addressing strongly as well. So you can go through attraction, you can go through onboarding, but you've got to make sure the pricing is something that keeps people comfortable as well. They've got to have the value that brings. They've got to understand the value of that gives them more value in terms of what you give back to them. So that's a summary of this. We've got a lot more detail on our website, and you can click on this link or you can scan this QR code to go and read more about that. The second area is students turning to full membership. So this has been quite a long issue for a long time, and a lot of our customers now are very good at doing the university tours, getting people on board. Quite often we see that it's that they're attracting them at the third or fourth year, depending on what their course is, which is too late. I think you've got to start really early, and you've got to go to the freshers fairs almost to start to go around in the different organisations on the right subjects to get them on board. So again, you know, the issues we see is that there's a great big gap between moving from the campus to the career, and I think that's a really important bridge that needs to be made. So how do you do that? Well, again, it's about the things I mentioned before, the right messaging that resonates with the right value statements. But what we see a lot, and what our customers see a lot from students, is again, in early career or in student career, you don't want to spend money necessarily, but you will value the benefits you get. And where they will spend money is on really good career progression, because still schools and universities aren't covering this very well. So how do I get from where I want to go, where are my options in this career, and how do I get there faster? So I think this is a message of trying to find out exactly what resonates with each individual student that you're dealing with or graduate you're dealing with, but then put in a full program. And that can be, here's all the learning resources we've got, here's a roadmap for you to consume them if you want to get to this point, here are some members that you can engage with that are mentors, here's some great case studies of people that were first year students, go through to graduates, get great jobs because we've given them training on how to write excellent CVs, we've given them training on how to write how to make interviews really buzz and you stand out. So these are services that aren't being provided well enough, in my view, by schools and by universities. You can offer it. You can give value, you can set people on their career path, and you can create that habitual engagement, but start very early in the first year students, because then you start to create those habits. So again, more on this, and we'll expand this as well. I'll publish over the next few days a sort of example engagement plan of how you can go through the student year and engage them in different sections throughout the year in their final year, in their first years, but also their final years, to try to convert them over. But please have a look at that. In summary, the underlying point of all of this is that digital tools, good digital tools now, enable you to spend a lot. It takes away a lot of your focus on producing things, and it means you can spend a lot more time on studying, researching, and gaining insight for that. Good tools help you capture the data. Good AI helps you overlay and understand that data really well. And then, as we'll see from the examples in a minute, you can use that AI to start driving excellent content, excellent targeted personalization for individual people. And in the case of young people or students, who still count as young people, driving excellent personalised career paths through based on their stated goals. So those are the things that we want to show you some examples of, but also please have a look at those website pages as well, because I think you'll find those particularly helpful. So with that, I'll hand over to Chris and to Adam. And first we've got Chris, who's going to talk through taking data and creating engagement out of it. So Chris.
Brilliant.
Just before you do it, I'll stop sharing to get rid of my face, because that's going to distract everyone, and I'll share again. There we go.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Steve. So Adam and myself are going to take you through a bit of a use case demo of using customer or member data and getting meaningful insights out of that. So I thought it would be useful just to give you a bit of an overview of what the demo is going to cover. There's going to be a few moving parts, and Adam and I are going to share back and forth as we do different sections of it. So I think the first thing just to consider is that as membership organizations, we capture or could potentially capture a lot of different data in a lot of different places. So traditionally, our data can be quite disparate. So we might have portal information, who's been accessing the portal, what have they been doing in the portal, might live on the website side of things. We might have traditional membership data, like their membership status, payment information, and things like that within your CRM. You might have event registration information in other systems as well. And we want to be able to pull all of that information into a single location, ideally that being CRM. So from a smart engagement point of view, what we look to do is integrate into different systems and understand all the various important touch points and bring that into CRM. And so we can start working with that data. What CRM then does really well is, if you go back to what Jeremy was saying about the macro and the micro insights, it's really good at delivering good micro insights to us so that we can go to an individual member and have a really good understanding of our relationship with that person. So how engaged are they with us? What are the touch points we've had with them? But what CRM is not traditionally very good at is that macro insight. So to get a strategic understanding of our data. So very often, and you'll see in a moment in the demo, our data can be almost overwhelming in the amount of information we could potentially capture. And it's very difficult for the human eye to have a look at that information and gather anything meaningful from that. And that's where AI comes in. So if we are able to pass that information into an AI and let that AI have a look at that data for us, it can start to pull out analytics and start to do more strategic insights into our data, and then use those strategic insights to come up with engagement plans for the different cohorts that they might identify, and then go into the actual content creation for that. So take it from raw data to strategize and then create the content for that. And then we can switch back into CRM, which again is really good at the individual level. So now that we know who we need to look for, we're able to build out audiences within CRM and then do email automation around that. So for our demo, we're going to start in CRM, have a look at the data, a little bit boring. Then we're going to go into AI, we will create some magic from that, and then back into CRM to do some execution around that. So I'm going to just hop into my CRM. And on the screen is a very standard view of contacts. So this is in Dynamics 365, which is where we built our smart engagement application. And as we have a look at the different membership information, it's a very simplified view. We can see that we have member status, the membership grade, and if I visualize that information and pull up charts for it, it becomes really easy just with the human eye to start picking out some trends. We can see that our affiliate members have the highest outstanding payments of our data. It's really easy for us to gather those insights. But the more complicated our data gets and the more information we record, it starts to become a lot harder to try and pull that anything meaningful from that. So if we start to have a look at wider engagement data, suddenly it's way less insightful. Now we have things like how many in-person events have they attended, how many times have they logged into the portal, what kind of content have they been downloading from our portal. Useful information, but very difficult to actually gather anything meaningful from rows and rows of data. So the first thing that we do with smart engagement inside the CRM is to categorize that data. So to try and assign a score to different things. So to say, if we go over to an engagement rule, we can say things like, if they access a training course, we want to give them 50 points as an example, to a maximum of 100. But if we receive a phone call from somebody, we may want to give them a different score. But not all people are equal. So in terms of scoring, at least. So we may want to assign different scores to different classes. So a student attending an event may have less points associated to them than a CEO or a director attending that same event. So with smart engagement, we want to start categorizing data, scoring that data so that we can come up with some meaningful insights back on the contact record. So all of this information we'll distill into something meaningful. And then if we go over to our contact record, we'll be able to see that smart engagement is able to summarize all of that information, give us an engagement score, give us a summary on that. So for this individual, they're under 50 points. So for us, that is teetering to the low engagement. But all of the data that's driving that scoring card is all coming from that information that we saw on that big list. And it's all being calculated and summing up onto our smart engagement. But if we want to start getting something a bit more strategic out of this information, we want to hand this over to AI. So there's a couple of different ways to do that in terms of integration. One of the options is simply to export this raw data into a massive spreadsheet and hand it over to an AI assistant that can start getting some information and insights from that. So I'm going to hand over to Adam, who will then take this data that's on the screen and start to run through and get something useful and insightful for us.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Chris. So talking of a big Excel export, can we all see this one here? Fantastic. So at this point is where I would usually, if I was receiving this in my past life as a general manager, probably run over to finance and ask them how to do a pivot table again for the 10th time, as I never learned, and then having to start through spending hours crunching the data, recategorizing it, and then finally getting to seeing what the insight is. And if I was lucky, I'd then have some time, but not always, to take action on that insight that I've just received. But the combination of the CRM tools that Chris showed, but also now what we're going to go through with AI, has fundamentally changed how we can start working with the data that we have. And we're using this data as a launch pad to first get insight from analysis and then to take action all in one place, with AI doing some of the work and us helping guide it to craft what it is that we need. So you can see here that we've got this Excel sheet with a whole host of variables, from the contact information, the types of engagements that we've had with them, a bit more information about their specifics, whether that's education and title, and then finally their engagement score. So what we're able to do, and I think before diving into this specific one, it's useful to have a pause and think, we're just doing this with membership and member engagement now, but this could be marketing, sales, customer service, finance. These data analytics capabilities that we have aren't just for membership, and with Smart AI there's over 100 assistants and 12 departments. So keep that in mind with how you could be using these tools to dive into the data that you need to for your organization. So what we're able to do, we come to our data analyzer assistant, and as I did this a week ago, the visualization has disappeared, but that's where you'd see the Excel is brought in. And I'd give it a really simple request to say, hi, help me assess my membership data. One of the good things about the assistants that we've built is that it first tells you exactly what it's going to do and what it can see. So that even if someone's not too AI confident or competent, the AI doesn't just shoot into action. It has a very grounded, clear way of working so that it's super easy for your teams to get the most out of AI. So it's first going to say, okay, here's the data that I can see you've given me. I'm then going to ask you 3 specific questions to better understand what you're trying to gain and how you want to try and analyze this. This is another very common feature of the assistants that we build. So we know that over 2 years of trying to do this at the Fire Industry Association, it's super important to ask people the right questions at the right time, so they're giving all of the right context to these AI assistants, and it's just going to make the outcomes that we get a lot more relevant and tailored than if we weren't to ask these, because it then relies too much on assumptions. So you can see here, it's asking what insights are you hoping to gain and what kind of analysis would you prefer. So you can see that I go through 20 seconds later, I've written up my responses, and it then tells me what the plan for the analysis is. So these three things, from stating what it can see, asking the questions, and then giving the plan, are really important when we're looking at AI tools, because it means that I, as the user, am in full control of what we're about to do and where we're about to go, which is the biggest thing we want with AI tools. They're to be an extension of us. They're there to help and assist us, not just to assume and do things that we might not have wanted them to do. So anywho, you can see it said it's going to go through this plan, where it's going to look at the segments. It's told you what analytical devices it will be using to get this data, so on and so forth. What we're then able to see is the data that we had back in that Excel. I asked it to break it down into 3 segments. So it popped open a canvas, and then it started writing up the report. And you can see here that it broke it down into the high digital and event engagers, the low engagement newer members, and then mature members with high physical resource use. It goes on to deep dive into every single specific segment, looking at the data that led to this analysis and what it might actually mean. And this is really useful because 30 seconds before, I just had a wall of data, and now I've started to craft that and shape that into something that's more tangible and actionable. So you can see that the report continues to do this, which is really useful for me diving into it. At any point, I could have picked one data point and drilled in further on that. But for this use case, we'll just keep it top level here. Okay, awesome. The next thing that we're able to do with this data analyzer is you can see that the report's there. I want to now start creating some visuals and charts. This could be line graphs, bar charts, pie charts, you name it. So I just simply give it a sentence, and it then pops out this visual, which is explaining the average engagement score by member segment. You're able to do some quite cool things with this. You can make it interactive, you can download it and put it into a report, as we go on to do. And you can also change the colors of it to suit your branding as well. I just wanted to show you one thing that about the report creating and the visual creating that sometimes doesn't get shown in demos of this nature. So this one, it went quite well. I wanted to see the types of services that a particular segment was using. But you can see, I just then wanted to adapt it so it just was showing the spend and engagement score. And you might be thinking, oh goodness, if I ask it to change, it's going to mess up the whole thing. But what I'm trying to show you here is it's really easy to adapt and change what we've produced, and it doesn't necessarily have to be, it works one time and it then won't work the next. It's very flexible and adaptable. We're always in control. And I'm not giving it Tolstoy's War and Peace, I'm just giving it like 10 to 20 words, and we're seeing how quickly it's making those changes. Okay, so what we're then able to do really quickly is to export this into a Word document, chuck in the graphs, and we've got a really high quality evidence-based report on that data analysis. Let's say that's 5 to 10 minutes later, depending on how much we deep dived into the specifics. What we'd then want to do is probably understand a bit more about these specific segments. So we can pass this off to our membership guru here, which is another assistant that focuses solely on giving best practice advice for your organization that it knows deeply about through the 5 core documents that we build every single assistant with. So this assistant, much like the one before, will understand our business overview, our products and services, our target audiences / members, and then our brand book and our keywords. So it's already coming from that foundation. And what we're then going to do is say, hey, I've got this membership report that you've just seen me make, and I actually want to get actionable insight for each unique segment from a membership expert. So this is a really, really powerful assistant for membership organizations to start looking at the relationships between them as an organization and the data we're giving it, and to try and unearth some ideas or insights that we might not have seen before. So once again, and I'm going to go through this one a bit faster, it asks 3 clarifying questions about what we're currently doing, what our existing infrastructure is, and what our priorities are from a strategy perspective. Once again, the AI is just trying to get more context so it can give better, richer, more tailored answers. So I then go on to answer the questions. It's becoming very common with these demos. And you can see it then pops out a new canvas where we take a real in-depth look at the specific segment. And this one's about the high digital and event engagers. It's giving an overview, the objectives, insights, and most importantly, the recommended actions that we should be taking. So it's at this point here that we'll just stop again to think, I could be choosing which ones to go and do, and then just go through and do those ones. And that's what I do over the rest of this demo. But imagine if your team had access to these tools, where you don't just have to pick one for a demo where you've got 10 minutes, but you can go into all of these recommended actions and even generate new ones to help improve your membership offering. And we're able to do all of this because we've bought time from the engagement that we did at the very start, rather than doing the pivot tables and the analysis and writing up a report manually. We've saved hours there, so we can spend a lot more time working and thinking with the AI to develop these new ideas and then go and turn them into actions. And I'm just going to quickly show you that I've just shown you one example there of one segment, but we actually did it for all 3 in one go, just showing how much output you can get very quickly from these AI assistants. So just opening up the canvas, you can see it's all built in the same structure, which is really, really useful. And funnily enough, they recommended for both of them a personalized onboarding campaign. So I thought, awesome, let's go and do that. However, looking at this segment, I think could be quite vague. Low engagement, newer members. I think there's a real opportunity for us here to segment this segment even further. So splitting the low engagement new members into 2 smaller, more specific groups, just so that we're being extra, or what the term probably is hyper personalized with our communication with our members. Some people will just be stuck without these tools, and they'll just be standing on a chair with not a foghorn, a megaphone saying everything to everyone all at the same time. Hopefully what you can see through smart engagement and smart AI is we're then able to split those down one level into those 3 segments, but we can also go deeper into one particular segment. And we go on to do this with the low engagement newer members, and we work with the membership guru, and it suggests that we split it further by younger or older members, because obviously we had their age in there as well. And then you can see we've got a canvas, which is going to be really useful for what we do next. But in this canvas, it breaks down the profile, and it then starts to give some campaign ideas that would be most relevant for us to communicate with this very specific sub-segment. And you can even see here in the tactics and channels, it's using the products and service information that it has within its brain to further tailor the communication that we're going to give it. So it's bringing through all of our different products and services and how that can be particularly beneficial to this group. Yeah, and you can see that gives you various other factors that we should be considering when we're trying to assess the efficacy of the action we're taking, but also what are some of the risks here about this course of action. So for some of you that have seen smart AI demos before, this is a very common workflow of going from input analysis, generating ideas, and then building those ideas. And we're at that final stage now where we go and take this advice on the specific hyper-personalized communication, and we pass it to our marketing planner here, who will once again ask tailored questions, and then dive in after we've given it the details to build out a very basic email campaign that we should be sending to build confidence, introduce our tools, and promote habitual interactions with our members. Perfect. What we're then able to do is send that through to the content creator. And hopefully you're seeing throughout this whole demo, I'm not sending loads and loads of information in each prompt because I don't have to. The core documents, the assistants, are doing a lot of the heavy lifting with the canvases, and I'm just passing that information along, staying in control and guiding it through. So we go to the content creator and we give it the email plan, and about 30 seconds later, we've got the draft content written up. I did also give it a comment on the type of resources we'd want to hyperlink, but you can see here in what was about 15 minutes of work, we went from, oh crikey, I've got so much data to analyze, to being in a position where we've got a campaign that's tailor-made for a hyper-specific segment of, let's say, an area we didn't even know existed before that review. And so hopefully that shows that how Smart AI really simply can empower your team to get the most of the data. And yeah, it was great that Smart Engagement exported clean, relevant data. This also can work with scrappy data. I saw someone put in the chat that what happens if our CRM's NAF, this, that, and the other. Well, you can still put CSVs or Excels in here. You might have to do a bit more work cleaning the data and getting it ready for analysis, but the AI can help you with that. So yeah, that's been Smart AI and how it can help with member engagement and personalization. And Chris, I'm going to hand back over to you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Adam. That was really great. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up from where Adam left off. So Adam had a look at the data, got some insights out of that, and then created content. So we are now back in Dynamics 365, in what's known as Customer Insights Journey, which is the Microsoft Marketing module. And we're just going to take a couple of minutes just to finish off that circle and take that content. Let's create an insight Dynamics. Let's find those demographics and that audience that the AI identified, and then let's send out a campaign. So I'm going to spend a little less time on the email side of things. Just suffice to say that we have a series of 5 emails that are now sitting inside our CRM. If I open up that, we have our normal editing functionality that we would expect to see. All I'm really going to do on this one is what the AI didn't put in. Just a little bit of personalization. So all I want to do is just add in the first name from the contact. We should probably put a hi in front of that as well. And then we pretty much get to go. If we wanted to go a bit deeper in terms of personalization, we do have other options as well. So we could do things like inline conditions, which would actually show different content to different people. So if we wanted to have different header images for students as opposed to more senior members, things like that. If we wanted to flag within the email if they're approaching a renewal date or something like that, we'd be able to bring all of that content into the system as well. But I'll just leave it there. So just trust me when I say we've got 5 emails, and we'll be using that as part of our email campaign, and they will sit in there in draft ready to go. The next thing we need to do is we need to find these people that the AI was able to identify, or these cohorts at least. So to do that, we're going to build out a segment, and a segment is essentially a data query. It can do a bit more than that though, but for the most part, it's an ability to look for information in the system. Now, this may look a bit technical and a little bit boring, but I guess all I wanted to point out with this is that all of that data that we're recording within CRM is out the box available inside Customer Insights Journeys in real time. So it's not about integrating into other systems and trying to push these marketing lists into some other system, or trying to build those queries in other marketing platforms or something like that. It's all there waiting for us. And any of that related data, so things like the engagement score, things like how many events that they attended, all of that is sitting ready to use. So we're looking for a younger audience. So I'm going with people 30 and under, and I'm going for an engagement score of under 50. What I could also do, if I wanted to, is I could start bringing in behavioral attributes as well. So I could say things like people who, let's maybe remove people who have opened one of our emails in the last 6 months, as an example. So we could go with an email open. We might want to make an allowance to say, you know, these individuals are actually engaged, even though the engagements was a bit lower, they are opening our emails, so let's not engage with them at this time. So we can build out really complex queries, and we can even use the assistant that Adam pointed out to actually help us build out these queries to say, well, what are the fields we're looking for? What is the data that we're looking for in particular? And we're just going to set that ready to use. So now we have our emails, or our content. Now we have an audience. The final thing we need to do is pull that together in an email campaign, hopefully an automated email campaign, and we can run from there. So to do that, we're going to create what's known as a journey, and a journey can be everything from a one-shot email campaign all the way up to a full automated campaign. We also have natural language processing, so we're able to actually ask Copilot, which is Microsoft's in-house AI, to build out these journeys for us. It can take a couple of seconds for it to build, so I'm going to let it run. I also didn't give it a particular audience to run for. But what I've asked it to do is create an email series with a 5 email series with a 1 week break between each mail. It says that it needs a segment, which is fair enough. I'm actually just going to put the first one in the list so I don't have to go searching, if you don't mind. I'm going to submit that. And we can see that on the right-hand side, it's given us a preview of the email campaign that it's created. So that looks good to me. I'm going to just go and create that journey. So all of that was just done using AI, and it's all pulled that information together quite quickly. From here, I can go in and start adding those emails. So just add a couple. I won't go through the whole list just for time's sake. But there we have the first 2 emails all set up, and it's going off to that particular segment. From here, within side customer insights, we can start to kind of tailor the experience as well through that automation. So we might want to say, let's send them an email and wait a week. So we're going to do like a weekly email campaign, which is completely valid. But we might want to say, you know what, if they haven't opened the first email campaign, maybe we would have built another email that's going to have a more urgent tone to it, so that if they haven't actually opened that, we may want to put them on a re-engagement campaign. So we're going to say for these guys that looking at that email, if they've opened the email, then that's fine. We'll carry on with the normal campaign. But if they haven't opened that email after, let's say, 1 week, which is probably a bit long, most people open within the first day or 2. But if they haven't opened that email, then we're going to send them on a re-engagement campaign, a series of emails until they've either not open that email or have moved on to the next phase. So from here, we can then run a series of emails, which would be a whole new journey within a journey, which would be our ability to do like a re-engagement campaign with them. We can start to build this out quite nicely. Again, Adam's assistants might direct you with this, so maybe the optimum wait time will be different between the different emails. We can do different types of conditions as well. And maybe once we got right to the end, if they haven't opened any of those emails, we want to create a task for a user within CRM to just call this one like a reach out call, and then we can take it from there. We're going to assign that to the contact owner, and then from that point on, we'll just pick up the phone and deal with them manually. So there we've gone from literally a spreadsheet full of data 15 minutes ago all the way through to a campaign that can now run for the next 5 weeks. This is all an automated campaign, so as new people meet that criteria that they drop beneath that engagement threshold, they'll automatically be put inside the journey and then go on the re-engagement campaign. And we can do all sorts of criteria for the exit criteria. So we might want to, by default, you would want them to complete all the steps, but we might say, you know what, if the engagement score goes above 60 at any time during this campaign, then let's remove them from the journey so that they don't need to receive the rest of those mails. Cool, and that's a quick run through of some of the customer insights, top entailing that. And I'm going to hand back over to Steve.
Great, thank you so much for that, Chris and Adam. Just while Steve is bringing up the slide, I want to say anecdotally, as a consultant working in the membership space, what you've shown there is something that I historically, when it comes to Adam's analysis of the problems an organization and the opportunities an organization might be having, and then coming up with an action plan to tackle particular groups like non-renewers or young people not joining. That is something that I've done many, many times over the years, but it would typically take me 2 months, and I would charge the client maybe 15 days of work. To do all of that and to have a very bespoke plan. To see that happening in a tiny amount of time and with lots of variations possible and lots of different directions the organization can go in by themselves is impressive stuff. What I'd also say is that the feedback I'm getting from membership organizations who have genuinely embraced AI and genuinely embraced these enabling tools, it's off the charts. This is something that organizations have never been able to do before. They're just making so much of their own resource and so much of their own ideas and creativity in a way that's never been available before because of all the work required and just running the organization. So it really is an exciting moment, to go back to my original remarks. So great, we've got a quick poll, if you don't mind. I'm just going to ask Chris to put up a quick poll, and essentially the question is, what would you do with your greater enablement if you had more time and more access to your data? What would you do with it? So Chris, are you able to put up the poll on the screen, please?
Yeah, I might actually have a different poll, to be honest.
Okay.
But it is up on the screen for what it's worth, and it's still very relevant. So the question: where do you think your organization would gain the most benefit from AI insight tools right now? And that's up on the screen.
Great, thank you. So if we just give people a few seconds to respond to that. Essentially, most organizations are thinking about their next steps, and AI has to be part of the picture. Otherwise, you're thinking about buying a VHS recorder in the age of streaming. It's part of most people's technology thinking. Okay, so Chris, if we've got the answers back, are you able to publish the results?
Yeah, there's still a couple more coming through, but there's two that are taking the lead at the moment. By the first one by a bit of a margin is building more automated workflows is the leader, and then coming in behind that is using interaction tracking more. So I'm going to close it off now. I think that's probably enough. Let me close the poll. Cool.
Great, thank you very much. And then if we can go to the next slide, then please. We're essentially, we've had some really great questions on the Q&A, and if nobody minds, I'm just going to fire those at the panel now. So great. We've got a question. I'm going to fire this one at you, Steve, if you don't mind, which is about getting started with AI. So imagine you're bought in, you think, yes, this is the brave new world. What are the first steps a common or garden association would take in order to start using AI, for instance, for member insights in their organization? How would you go about getting started?
Well, it's a big subject, but briefly, I think there's two sides. We had a question earlier on about what if my systems aren't, the data in my systems isn't good enough? How do I do it? I think that clearly is a problem, but it's not a stopper. The tools that Adam and Chris just showed do two things. They enable you to produce a lot more, better quality, faster in terms of content. And if you improve your content, you'll improve your engagement anyway. You won't get as much personalization if you can't use your own data about the different contacts to drive that. But I think that this doesn't mean that AI won't work for you, because it can make you rapidly more productive. But we've got a whole series of steps on our website, and we'll be sharing the link about that in a minute, about how to get started, how to set policies, how to educate my staff in what to do and what not to do, the different stages I should go through for AI maturity and so on. So I think the summary I'd give is, don't view this as a massive IT project, because it isn't. It's a very agile, do a little bit here and a little bit there and see what works and try it out again and try it out differently. You can do it in a very evolutionary way with a very slow start for a very low cost that still gives you very good ROI. So we see organizations that do that get success quickly because colleagues see other colleagues using it and they want more of the same. We see organizations also that say we're going to do nothing for 15 months to evaluate what the market's doing and find the exact right tool. I don't think that works because the market's changing a lot anyway, and the tools that are leading are good enough and better than what people have already got, i.e. nothing. So use them, and if something happens in 18 months or 15 months to change that, change your tools. But that's how I would, that's my summary.
Fantastic. And so the barriers are not as scary as people might think. It's not a wholesale. You have to replace everything in order to have a sniff of it. Fantastic. No. I've got a question for you, Chris, if you don't mind, which is somebody's asking about where their data might not be the best connected data in the world. Can a membership organization use more modern AI tools to make the most of data and websites without having to replace their existing software? Can you get the benefit of some AI tools with relatively disconnected systems, or perhaps when your website and your CRM aren't quite as connected as you would like them to be?
Yeah, I mean, AI can do a lot of things, and I think that the very first question is, do you need to integrate your data for it to be able to do the thing that you want it to do? And some of those answers is very obvious, yes, some of it no. So if you want an assistant to help you write an email or to help you create some training materials, you may not need that integrated into your database at all, because it's not data dependent, it's your own knowledge and your organization's knowledge. Having said that, even through what Adam showed you, ChatGPT assistants are really ring-fenced type of AI that's not actually natively plugged into anything. So the ability to use raw data in the terms of spreadsheets and things like that is also very possible. But I would also have a look at what AI is available natively in the systems that you're currently using. So things like Dynamics 365 has Copilot, which is automatically connected into some of those data sources. So you may not think it's connected, but maybe it is, depending on the tool that you're using. So I think that maybe if you can't integrate, the next question should be, well, how easy is it to access your data at all? Is it a black box? Are you able to export that information? Are you able to put it into things like SharePoint that might be made available to other assistants? Those are the types of things you should be thinking about as well.
That's a really helpful answer. So the challenge historically has been that if it's not integrated, like you've got two different spreadsheets from two different systems, for instance, or one spreadsheet and one system, you can't relate them in any way or do anything across the whole. With AI tools, the way that Adam was showing us, actually it can do a lot more of making sense of it without that expertise of having to be super expert in Excel or data analysis. Fantastic, thank you. Quick question for Adam, if I may. This is a kind of governance concern. So great, you've deployed AI, but what measures should an organization take to ensure that their member data remains secure to them and compliant with data protection? By asking the AI for stuff, are you sending your data around the world? Those kind of concerns. Could I get some thoughts from you on that?
Yeah, I think to better answer the question, we need to go back to the before they've installed or adopted the AI point. The first thing that's seriously important is that we all acknowledge that people want to use AI, and if we're not providing it for our teams, they're just going to go out and do it themselves, be that on their personal accounts or their phones. And we unfortunately speak to far too many people where they're like, yeah, we're using AI. Do you have a work account? No, we just let people use their personal ones, and you're just like, oh my goodness, because that's the worst of all outcomes, right? Because we're not having any control over the tools that they're using or where their data is going. Because conversely, on a Teams plan, there's no model training, so everything that you put in across your whole workspace isn't going back to the AI providers to further improve their models, aka losing your IP and your information. And the second thing is, for instance, ChatGPT Teams that Smart AI is built on top of is GDPR compliant. So your data is going to A, not leave and be safe in there. And they also do some good work to strip out any personal identifying information as well. So there'd be the two things I'd say. It's just before you get anything, check that you're getting a workspace and don't wait, because people are just using it already.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're already losing.
Fantastic. Those are really good thoughts on that, Adam. Thank you so much. Steve, we're out of time now, so I'm going to hand back to you, if I may, just to go through the kind of wrap up. Is that okay?
Okay. So, well, look, thanks everyone. I hope you found it useful. 3 more slides and that's it. First thing is, to the point of we've got systems, but they don't really do what we want. Well, we provide systems that do what people want. So there's a whole range of different apps that attract a lot of or support a lot of different organizational departmental areas. So you can read more about them on our website or scan that QR code. We've talked about AI and some governance and how do I start. We've got a load of free resources at that link there. Keep an eye on that. If you go to it today, you'll find out that tomorrow it's very different because we're uploading a load of other stuff as well. So please do keep visiting that back. But that's got a load of policy documents and so on. We ask you to sign a little form to begin with, but then you'll be able to access all of the different assets behind that. And that's really useful. And then finally, we've got future sessions. We run these pretty much every month. We're taking a break for the summer, but the next ones are in September, and then we'll run those through to Christmas and into next year. So please visit that regularly, and you'll see the different things that we're running there as well. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for attending. Hope it was useful and interesting for you. By all means, please contact us if you've got any questions or you're interested in any of the points that we made. And we look forward to seeing you at future sessions. Bye for now.
Thanks, all.
Great. Thanks, everybody.